get the ID of the record when it is in record edit page. So force has a record ID or force has a subject name works only in record edit pages. So when you have a separate component and invoking the component from a Lightning application, these two doesn't work. So the component must be placed in a record detail page. Has record ID, has a subject name. These two works in a record edit page. Otherwise, the value is undefined. So if you are not including any component within a record page, we don't generally use has record ID or has a subject name. Let's go with has record ID. So what is the scenario we can use here? So let's say I have two objects, account, contact. So these are the two objects. So what are the scenarios that we can use as record ID? So it's a 1:n relationship, both account and contact having 1:n relationship. The scenarios are like, one is create an account, create a contact from account page. So I want to create a contact from account page. So to create a contact, what you need? You need a account ID here. So account ID is nothing but has record ID. And another scenario, to count the list of contacts of that account. So here to count the list of contacts for any account, what you need? You need an account ID. So how you get the account ID? Using record ID attribute. For such cases, if any operation specific to a record ID, then we use the has record ID. So let's go to a new component. So my requirement is I want to count the list of contacts for an account, the contact count. So and I want to include that component in my account screen. In an account page, I want to in an account detail page. So what I want to do, I want to see how many contacts are there for an account. So what are all the things you have to implement? So one is Apex class to query the contacts using an account ID. This is the one, and we have to implement a component which implements. What are all the things you have to implement? One is has record ID, interface. This interface is required, and then controller.js. So this is a common code, right? So let's implement quickly this. So I have to include the page in record detail section. So I have to implement all the interfaces. As record ID is required. So let's do the changes here only. Account new form. Let's create a new form. Just copying the interfaces here. So when you generally in a record page, simple thing is when you implement force has record ID. When you implement an interface force has record ID, if you specify v.record ID, this will return record ID. So v.record ID returns record. This is standard. So the step is you have to implement force has record ID. So if you implement force has record ID, then only you can use v.record ID, right? So we dot record ID is a standard syntax which comes directly when you implement the force as record ID, because here is an attribute. Record ID is a standard attribute. We dot record ID returns ID of the record. So, but your component must be added in the record edit. I mean, record detail section as an inline component. Otherwise, the value is null. Now, I want to count the contacts. Let's say to count the contacts, what are all the things in it? So let's go define the class first. Class name is contact count controller. So first thing you have to declare a controller here, an apex class. This is an apex class. Aura enable public static. This will return integer. Public static integer return count. Return count is a method, custom method, and I need to pass account ID. We have to pass the account ID, and based on the account ID, I will get the contact ID from ID account ID. Account ID is a standard field in a contact. From contact where account ID is equal to ACC ID. So in this method, this is a apex method. So in this method, I'm just returning the list of contacts for that account. But we have to pass the account ID from controller, from the controller JS. And I want to display some message, some help message, some message where you can see the number of contacts. Div equal to left 50 pixels or pixels width pixels that 1 px color. So I want to display some message in one color, let's say in green color. With the text in green color I want to display number of contacts for an existing account is, and I want to display some edge field. Contact count or count is an edge field. str count. So we have to define this str count as an attribute. So we'll get the value from the controller. I'm defining an attribute here. Attribute name equal to str count, type equal to, it can be the number or it can be the string, just a value, just a string. So this is the message I want to display. Number of contacts for an existing account is str count. So what we have to do, we have to pass a record ID. So how you get the record ID in controller? So let's say I want to execute this in component of handler name equal to init, value equal to this, action equal to action. Do run is an action or invoke, invoke is an action. So this is a controller JS action. So now first thing is you have to get the record ID. Record ID ACC record ID. How you get it? Component dot get of v dot record ID. So you can use this attribute without record ID. Use the exact name. So this will return record ID. So when you include this component in a detail section of the Lightning page, then you will get the record ID. So when you have the record ID, you know how to pass the record ID to your class. And the method name is return count. Let's say file action equal to component dot get of c dot return count. Action dot set terms acc record ID, and what is the parameter acc ID. $e dot mq action of that action. Then call back this response. Get the state first. If state equal to success, get the response. And assign the value str count to variable. The str count is variable in my component. In my component. So simple code. So we are passing an account ID to an apex method and counting the number of contacts and assigning the number of contacts to str count. Only the change is this one. This is a standard one. So you can use this. You can only use this when you implement has record ID. Has record ID in our Lightning component. That is the only change. So you can just include it in the standard page. Go to any of the account. Go to any of the account and go to edit page. I want to include on top of the page. Go to edit page. So in custom component list, custom list, so you can see your component contact conform. So first thing is you need to add it anywhere in the account page. So I just added it. I just added on top of the from back to view and save it. Activate it. Save it and activate it. Then go back. So once you added anything in the Lightning component, so what you can do, just refresh, Control Shift or refresh it. Control Shift or for complete refresh. Now here, even I have 0 contacts, contact 0, but the value is not showing here. So let me check. Just inspect the element. Go to console. So see, ACC record ID. I am able to get the record ID here. I'm able to get the record ID. In the console log, I have the ACC record ID. So which means this is the one. ACC record ID. I'm able to get the record ID. So there is no issue with the record ID. Right? And you can check the status also. State and you can get the you can print the response also. So here what you have to do, v.str form. You have to print a v.str form and refresh now. Control Shift R. Complete refresh. So you can see number of contacts for an existing account is 0. So generally, when you have a standard component, when you have a standard page, so within a standard page, if you want to include any custom component, we have to add some interfaces. So you can. So what is the use of showing such messages? So in business, so you have the related list. So we have added similar functionality. So for one of the requirement also. So we have the work orders. So and we have the work orders and we have child work orders. The work order is nothing but an issue with any any internal property, for an issue with the AC or an issue with the uh, pipe or an issue with the floor or an issue with the wall. So when an issue is repeated, we keep adding the work orders. We want to see how many times the issue is repeated, because agents will pick those work orders and they fix it. So recently we have added similar functionality to identify how many repeated issues are created for a single work order. The same thing we have implemented to account and contact here. So I want to see how many contacts are created for an account, or let's say I have department and employees. I want to see how many employees are working for a department. So instead of going for related list, we have the related list here, but instead of going for related list, we can simply display one message in the account level. So let's say if I create a new contact, just one. Suppose if I create a new contact, you have to refresh it because it's a custom component. You have to refresh it. When you add a new component, when you add a new contact, you can see the count keep increasing. The number of contacts for an existing account is 1. So if you include one more contact, this count becomes 2. So you can add some CSS in order to highlight the text, message. So you can add additional CSS if you want. You can display some red color text. So generally in a case level, so we use some inline components to identify status of the case or to identify stage of the case. So such requirements, so we use has record ID. So in order to get the record ID of that record, so now when I refresh, automatically has record ID gives the record of this ID of this. So here is the ID in the URL. When you have the ID in the URL, this is the ID currently. This is the ID currently we are showing here. So even when you have a standard controller, so all these concepts are similar to the standard controller. In Classic also, when you define a standard controller for any page, so here my standard controller is an account. When I have a standard controller, when you specify account.id, and if the URL has, let's say URL, if the URL has any record ID, if the URL has any record ID, this will return a record ID of that account. So this must be the account ID. If the URL has an account ID and your page has a standard controller and account, and the statement returns the account ID. The same way, so we have force has record ID. This acts as a standard controller. When you have the force has record ID, and when you specify record ID attribute, then this will return ID of the record, ID of that record. It's not specific to any object. If you include the same component in contact, it will return the contact ID. So this will return the current record ID. So if you include the same component in other layout, this record ID returns that record ID, right? So this is one example where you can use a record ID. The same way, when you get different requirements, based on the requirement, you can probably use has record ID in your code. Any questions?
Okay, Nara. We have also implemented this count in our older version of the CRM.
Okay. So this is generally this is much useful use case most of the time. So we need that count in parent level.
Yeah.
So this is about force has record ID, and let's move to force has S object name. Just need another 20 minutes. So what it does?